In the post-race press conference, SVG and Chris Rice, the team president of Kaulig Racing, both mentioned winning on an oval as the next goal for SVG heading forward now that he's locked into the playoffs for the rest of his 2024 season. I asked him, which ovals are you looking at that you might circle on your calendar that you think you might have the best chance at getting that job done? Here's what SVG had to say to answer my question. Are there any ovals in particular you're looking at coming up in the schedule that you think you might have a shot at taking a win?
The left-handed ones.
Fair enough.
Wow. Yep. That's definitely SVG right there. And good on you, Ben, for asking the tough questions. And I mean, with him, you're going to get your answer. There it is.
Yeah, well, I think it speaks very highly of his confidence here and how quickly he's picking these ovals up. Of course, he had a couple of very strong runs to start the year. I think third at Atlanta, sixth at Phoenix, and been a little bit of a struggle since then trying to get the cars up to speed. And that's another thing that Chris in particular talked about during that press conference. And by the way, you can catch the full thing on the Grid YouTube channel. Peter Strada also posted the source audio footage. I know some people were saying in the comments that they couldn't hear the audio very well, and we apologize about that. They didn't turn the air vent off before the press conference, and we just had our webcam filming that. So if you want to try to work some magic and try to sync those two videos up at the same time, you can listen to the audio from Peter's video and watch the press conference on our channel at the same time there, so that you can hear it a little bit better. You can also enable the transcripts as well if you're having trouble with that. But yeah, if you want the full press conference, it's there available to you. And like we said, obviously, Chris talking about a theme that's been developing for Kaulig all year, talking about how their cars haven't been up to speed with where we expected them to be. But obviously, this was a great opportunity for them with both SVG and AJ Allmendinger. And to his credit, Josh Williams up there as well with a 7th place run. He had a very strong day in that third Kaulig car. And, just obviously, like I said, it hasn't been the start to the year that they wanted, but Chris is very adamant that they are pushing forward, trying to improve their cars and their performance, and saying that, the fact that SVG certainly had a lot of marks on his car, and it's going to be a unique race win Lionel diecast, which you can go pre-order now as well. That's a sign that the fact that SVG had to drive that car so hard is a sign that those cars are not where they need to be just yet. So, Brandon, in light of all of that, does that make his win more impressive to you, given that he had to overcome a lot driving back up through the field to win this race?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and more than just the race win diecast there from Lionel, that was the way you wanted to get it done. And it kind of in the same way you felt for Joseph Newgarden in this year's Indy 500, in a much smaller way, of course. But last year where, it kind of came off a rule where they don't allow you to do that sort of thing anymore, swerving in towards the pit lane and out. Being able to win it this year, hard-nosed, getting a win that's free from red flag, yellow flag scenarios, kind of in a smaller way. SVG getting a Chicago street course win last year in the Cup Series on his debut was very impressive, but he spent a lot of time up in the front and just outlasted the competition, had a couple of challengers, and actually from the Kaulig Racing stable there. So kind of ironic as we come this year to Portland, but getting beat up, banged, and has to make his way through the field again, and then comes up there for the win. That's the way you do it, and that's the way he has to enjoy doing it. And the Portland circuit kind of reminds me of maybe something that he's familiar with there with supercars. Kind of makes me feel like a Phillip Island kind of thing, where it's long sweeping turns, a little more flat around the way, and so possibly that might be to his advantage to be somewhat more of like a supercar kind of circuit. But I'm excited about his answer to your question of where he feels he might have a better chance with the oval. It's just give me one that turns left, and we'll see what we can do.
Obviously, we all knew that that was one of the talking points coming into this season, was between SVG and AJ, could Kaulig sweep the road course races this year with how strong each of those drivers is on the road courses. And obviously, SVG was up there in the mix at COTA, but came up short to Kyle Larson. And even though he finished second on track, got a penalty that I still think was far too harsh for cutting the course, sending him back 30 seconds to basically be the last car in the lead lap. But had another opportunity this weekend, took it. He's in the playoffs. We'll see if AJ can maybe lock his spot in this weekend at Sonoma, or if SVG can go back to back and try to ride that momentum for himself. But absolutely, I think, the fact that he did have so much to overcome, obviously, I'm sure he would have preferred if it could have just been a Sunday drive or a Saturday drive in this case, I guess, just up from the front row and taking the win without too much to deal with. I'm sure that would have been a less stressful afternoon for him, but he got the job done nonetheless. And I think there's merit to both of those possible outcomes. It shows his racecraft and the fact that I think he has gotten used to the argy-bargy, if you will, of NASCAR National Series racing. The fact that he was able to come back up through the field and take the win regardless of everything that kept getting thrown in his path. He overshot turn 12, ran off course at one point during the race. He had his front bumper caved in a little bit, causing a tire rub. He was going to win stage 1, and I still don't really understand why Kaulig pulled him into the pits, because he did give up a stage win and 10 stage points and a playoff point there. But ultimately, maybe it worked out better for his race strategy because he came through and won the race regardless, and that's the ultimate goal. So I suppose you can't question that too much. But, it was not a simple, straightforward day, but he won the race nonetheless, and more power to him.
Yeah, and he's still smiling. That's what gets me.
Yeah.
He still has that fish out of water, so to speak, appearance, at least on the media side. Although there are some drivers we've seen in the past, like Joey Logano, they can be mad and still be smiling. So maybe that's not all there is to it. But like I've said in weeks past, I've been kind of waiting for him to break into America, but it seems to just be his who he is.
Yeah, and to your point, Brandon, as well, I want to emphasize, and again, you can watch the full thing for yourselves on our channel, but the very first thing he said in the press conference was, apologies to Sam Mayer and the one team getting into them on the start. He's just the nicest possible guy, and I can tell you now from experience, actually, getting a chance to ask him a question and see him in person this weekend. He's the same in front of cameras as he is behind. Just totally down to earth, and
it's awesome.
Very nice guy. I think even the Kaulig pit crew on the radio were mentioning that at the start of this season, and it certainly showed this weekend again. Very apologetic to Mayer, and unfortunately, because again, Mayer was able to work his way back up through the field as well. Don't remember quite off the top of my head where he ended up. I know he had a flat tire that sent him all the way back to 28th. So really an unfortunate turn of events for him. But again, he just won his first Xfinity race, just got locked into the playoffs, and the very first thing on his mind was apologies for getting into a guy on lap 1 and compromising his afternoon from there. So, all credit to SVG once again. And like I said, another opportunity coming up this weekend at Sonoma. So we'll see what he can do with that in the meantime.
It's good to see a driver that's got a load of talent, gifted, but also is a gentleman as well. That's good to see. Doesn't happen too often, does it?